All right, so before we go further, I want to remind you that whether you are using the second, third, or fourth edition of our textbook, it is required that you have the textbook for this section. Now, the textbook and the order of our workbook and lecture are not completely aligned. Part of this is just different editions and the structure and previous textbooks we've used for this course. So what I want to suggest you do when and as you start reading the textbook and chapters moving forward is start by looking at the end of the chapter. So what's the benefit of the end of the chapter? For our textbook, it has a section called Seeking Answers. And in it will say, what is ultimate reality? How should we live in this world? What is our ultimate purpose? So these are some of those core questions that we generally want answered at the beginning of our journey into the religion. So, sorry, moving stuff around. All right, so revisiting tribal religions, first off, include but are not limited to ancient indigenous groups around the world, modern, meaning younger than 2,000-year-old indigenous groups, and sometimes small groups that have separated from their own communities, linking back to older tribal traditions. In our textbook, and we only have one, not two, so I need to fix that. In our textbook for the course and lecture, it is acknowledged that numerous tribes are mentioned. Tribal religion is not one belief system, one set of rituals, or one community. Many groups fit under the category. So, in this workbook, in discussion questions, when it says, choose a ritual of any tribe, I want you to mention the tribe. Don't just say Native America. Don't just say Africa. You can use the Gagaju, that is a particular tribe, but I want you to mention the tribe. Okay. Please read through this area. So as I just mentioned, we're starting with the ultimate feature. So we're starting with the worldview. Generally, tribal religions see the universe as animated by spirits in sacred space. Humans have a place in the cosmos, which is being ruled by cycles in the natural order. So if we go to our textbook and we look at that last page, which I just had, give me 1 second. There we go. Where it says Seeking Answers. All right, so in the fourth edition, it is page 63. I don't have the other editions right next to me to tell me what page it is in those previous editions. All right, so here, the question, what is ultimate reality? Myths contain sacred knowledge about ultimate reality and the nature of the world. In Native American religions, the world is believed to have been created by created deities. The entire world and the many elements within it, including human beings, may be believed to be infused by the spiritual essence of a supreme being or great spirit. So, universe, animated by spirit. So, when we approach the worldview in our workbooks, sometimes it will come from what you see at the end of the chapter. Sometimes it will be phrased a little bit differently. We'll get to that when we get to the Western religions. So, what are some examples of worldviews that you have found from African tribes? So that would be chapter 3. Native American groups, chapter 2, or the Gagaju. So you can use anything. This is just a note area. It is not a task. The idea is to see that you are reading the textbook, watching the video. All right, so the following tend to play roles in tribal worldviews. Spirits of, and, wow. When you are looking at your workbook, that will be fixed. I do apologize. So spirits of living animals, spirits of the dead, other types of spirits. When you read through the textbook, you'll notice that there are different types of spirits that are mentioned. So this is an excerpt that addresses the sacred. This is not in your textbook. This is from a previous book that was once used. So every object in the world has a spirit, and that spirit is walking. Thus, the spirits of the tree or things of that kind, while not like the spirit of man, are also walking. Walking comes from walking beings. These beings are greater than mankind. However, the most powerful of the beings is Nagitanka, the great spirit, who is Taku Skanskin. Taku Skanskin signifies the blue. In other words, the sky. So that's addressing this notion of spirit and sacredness that comes from the Oglala Sioux. Now, the ultimate. Every tribe may have a unique perspective on who or what the ultimate power is. Sometimes it's a god, sometimes it's multiple deities. When you look through, especially, and I'm going to go ahead and give this to you for task 2, when you look through the African chapter here, there is a lot of information about the Yoruba. There is some information about the Cherokee in Yoruba, chapter 3. There's some information about the Cherokee in chapter 2. I am using the Cherokee here. And you know what? I think I'm going to combine it with the Hopi. Give me just one second. Because they do go decently a little bit more into the Hopi than they do the Cherokee in the textbook. One of the reasons that we do watch the video on the Gagaju is because it is dealing with a very specific group and it goes very well into that group. Alright, so now task 2 is going to read, it can be Cherokee, Hopi, or Navajo. And so you can get that information from chapter 2. Just as a note when it comes to Cherokee, and just as a little reminder about our course, when you go to the Learning Resources page, there are some recommended videos. But there's also things such as the Myth of Creation and Selu, and which actually I would like you to read that one. But there's also additional sacred stories for the Cherokee and for other groups. All right, so work on task number 2. And, I know this video is a bit longer, but I'm going to real quick mention task 3 at the same time. So task 3, using the textbook lecture. We're not going to worry too much about examples here in lecture. I'll give a couple examples in the next video. Using the textbook lecture videos to complete this task, what are 2 examples of creation stories, be it of the world or humans? Really great creation stories in both chapters. And then what I just showed you there on our Learning Resources page. For each example, share in your own words how the example might help us to classify, organize, or understand religion. Okay, use terms from the first module. So, does it seem to be cosmological, transcendental world, embracing world, denying? Does it show animism, totemism, monotheism, pantheism, animism? Does it show us something that seems to be of a sacramental or a prophetic or a social or mystical approach? And real quick with with task 2, it does also ask you to classify. So please get that done. And in the next video, I'm going to show you a few examples, but also talk about the discussions that are aligned here.